It's the Friday edition of the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter, Jenna Harner coming at you on a Friday talking Steelers, Texans, and what Kenny Pickett and this offense have to show after improving last week. Keys for them this week. We got words from Kenny Pickett on that in the show. It's going to be a fun episode here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to the Locked On Steelers podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carter, bringing you your daily dose of all things on the Pittsburgh Steelers. As always, you can find the show on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Like this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all of your daily Monday through Friday episodes, as well as our bonus content. We thank you for making the Locked On Steelers podcast your first listen every day, because we're your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. As I said before, we're rejoined by our friend Jenna Harner. She's back on the show from Channel 11 WPXI. Jenna, how you been?
Chris, it has been wonderful. I missed you guys last week. Sorry for the insanity that a Sunday night football game on Channel 11 brings, but Vegas was great. Obviously, Steelers get a big win. Steelers fans came out there in absolute droves. I think every third person I walked by on the Vegas Strip was in some sort of Steelers attire. So, Steelers fans travel well, but this is something really cool to see.
Yeah, it was really intense. And I mean, Steelers fans, Steelers Nation is everywhere, but it was really apparent on Sunday Night Football, all the terrible towels waving and the Steelers talking about how it was kind of like a home game for them. But they've got a big game coming up against the Texans, and it's kind of because every game is a big game, but they're going up against a quarterback in C.J. Stroud. A lot of people are hyped up for, because he's the first rookie quarterback to throw for, I think, over 900 yards in his first 3 games. Yeah. He's also thrown 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. We broke him down a little bit on our crossover Thursday episode with our Locked On Texans host, John Hickman. Go back and check that out if you want to see that. But the big thing in here is, can Kenny Pickett stand up to this Texas defense and build on the progress that's been shown here for the Steelers? It's very possible. The Steelers took steps forward. We've seen consistency building there, and Kenny Pickett talked with us on Wednesday at the Steelers locker room. Here were some of the important parts that we kind of clipped up from our conversation with Kenny Pickett.
I believe going into that game, Purdy was the only guy who had a better yards per attempt than you on play action, but very few had thrown fewer balls than you on play action because the game flow and things of that sort. Was there an agenda going in to do play action regardless?
It's all about the flow of the game and what we're doing. And, if we don't have a run game, it's hard to get the play action going. So with the fact that we had the run game, we were efficient there, was, able to, dial up some of those play actions, and we have some more explosive plays, get Pat involved more, which was great to see. So it makes us more, versatile, which we're pushing for the goal this week.
Mike Tomlin talked about the importance of hitting certain plays to open up more parts of the playbook. How much is that a discussion to open up more opportunities you guys know you have in your back pocket? Yeah,
it's big. You want to make the easy plays, the routine things routinely, as he says, and it helps open up the other things. So pushing for perfection in that area to kind of allow us to do the things that we haven't shown yet, that we're kind of just at the tip of the iceberg, I'd say, with what we've been doing. So definitely a positive on Sunday night.
Why did they move you from short to run or check into a run if it's a light box? I mean, how much does that latitude for you change week to week based on the plan?
It's definitely based on the plan, what we see defensively in certain looks that you want to get that perfect call in. And, if it's not the perfect call, we can check out of it and hopefully return back to it, which we did a couple times on Sunday night. So I think it's definitely week by week with the amount of them, but they'll always be in there.
Do you have any more leeway to do that in your second year than you did?
We had them, we had them last year. I think we're getting more and more into it, which is great, putting us in positions to be successful and have a great play in, no matter what covers they're in, or structure. So it's been good.
So a few things there from Kenny. One, addressing the playbook and opening things up in play action, talking about the need to hit on other things so that they can use these other elements of the offense. And we saw play action get used last week by the Steelers, and it was a great success. They used play action to kind of open up the middle part of the field, and that's also what opened up Pat Freiermuth in the end zone on the touchdown pass there. And Jenna, I think one thing, Kenny Pickett brought up, getting the run, but he's also talked about other points about, using the pass game to set up the run. All of it starts from this balanced attack we've been talking about overall. what do you see that Kenny Pickett mostly has to do to make sure that he is at least keying the right parts of establishing that balance for the Steelers offense?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's been something that we didn't see throughout the first 2 weeks. And we did see, like you said, a little more consistency. I feel like I saw Kenny Pickett in a much more, I don't want to say necessarily confident, but just like he went out there and he was taking care of business. We saw him take care of business in the ways that we did Sunday against the Raiders. And it's interesting because I feel like it does all, like he mentions, start with establishing the run a little bit more. And that's something too. I asked Najee Harris, I've been asking a lot of the guys in the locker room this week, that touchdown drive, that 6-play, 81-yard touchdown drive where it was capped off by Pat Freiermuth's touchdown. I feel like that was the most complete, most consistent, most solid potential drive we can see from this offense.
Absolutely.
Say, hey, there's a ton that they can build on here. And I've been asking a lot of the guys this week, is that drive kind of not only what you guys look to be every week, but how do you see that being kind of a springboard for where this team wants to continue to get to? And Najee Harris says it all starts with the run. He's like, you saw how we established the run there, and then we can get to the play action. Then we can open things up. Then we can have the opportunities to find Pat Freiermuth across the middle. Then George Pickens, was that a mesh route that Pickens ran?
Yes, there was the mesh is the concept where it's a shallow cross and another shallow cross. And I will say another part of this was also Allen Robinson. If you watch the all 22, Robinson, so the mesh is when two shallow crosses go across the middle, and the idea is that one kind of sets up the other. On the play, Robinson doesn't hit Pickens, man, but he just gets in front of him for half a second and jumps out of the way. And you see afterwards, Pickens catches the ball, and now he has all this space. Robinson even does like a fist pump, and he's like, I did it. And like that allowed the big play there. But absolutely, that's one of the plays that they're talking about.
Yeah, those are the types of things that we want to continue to see, and this offense wants to continue to get to. But it was because of the way Jaylen Warren, Najee Harris, those guys were able to run in the ways that we saw. And of course, some of it was a little bit, I remember the pass, one of the early plays on that drive was a pass from Pickett to Warren, who was kind of more of a off to the side, and he just took off and was going forward a little. And I think he got like 8 or 9 yards on that, and it set up second and short. And I think those types of situations, of course, are what the Steelers want to get. But I think we just need to see more of that. We need to see more of, hey, they're going to chew up clock. They're going to march the ball. And it wasn't even, I think it was like a 4-minute drive. It was, or maybe like 3:51. It was just under 4 minutes. It wasn't entirely long, but it was just, hey, they're moving the ball. They're moving it with pace. They're finding open guys. And it didn't seem like it was too much. They weren't trying to force anything.
Right.
And I think that's one of those things where if we can see 2, 3 of those types of drives from the Steelers, and hey, it doesn't all have to result in a touchdown. If they get a field goal because they get stopped something, I think there's still a lot of positives to that. But that's the way this offense wants to play, and that's how we saw them move the ball in the preseason too. There was rhythm, there was consistency, and they're all looking for more of that. But like a lot of the guys, including Kenny Pickett, said, it really starts with continuing to get the run game going, which was something we didn't entirely see weeks 1 and 2.
Absolutely, and that's where I think that the Steelers want to be, is get a rhythm going, establish an identity. Kenny Pickett also talked about that importance, like needing to show who they are and put things on tape. And that's something that we played earlier in this week, I believe, on our Wednesday show about Mike Tomlin, him saying, we have to establish things. It's something we've talked about a lot. There has to be a bread and butter for this Steelers offense, something that we call this up. We're hitting this 9 times out of 10. It's going to get 5, 8, 10 plus yards, and it's going to frustrate the defense because, man, they're doing that so well. We talked about that with Wes Euler from Steeler Nation Radio on this very topic. But Jenna, I think it's the biggest thing this week, is the biggest thing from offensive progress. I think we want to see from the Steelers establish a bread and butter. What is your main call? Whether it's running the ball with Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren, screen passes, quick slants, mesh concepts, deep ball to Calvin Austin, whatever it is, show some consistency this week. And then when you do that, defenses have to scheme against it, and then those counter plans start to come into play. And then we start to see, okay, Matt Canada, can you counter off of something that your offense has established? And if he doesn't do that, then that's more criticism that can be levied at him. But when there is no bread and butter, it is much harder to call plays until you find those common core plays that can just apply for you across the board. If the Steelers do that this game, I think that's a huge key for them against the Texans and for the whole season.
Yeah, and again, starting to see them form a little bit of that identity. Just a week ago in the locker room, Kenny Pickett said, look, we don't entirely know what our identity is as an offense. We're still trying to find it. We're still trying to figure it out. These are those steps that they need to take in order to continue to create that identity. Because again, coming into this season, we heard so much talk about, okay, improved offensive line. There's going to be a ground and pound. They're going back to the run game of the old days, that type of thing. But then with what we saw in the preseason, with the way that they were passing the ball, I think there was a little bit of a, whoa, what can this offense truly be? And again, I keep telling people I feel like we got to push past that preseason narrative, but it's just hard not to with what they put on display. Now we're seeing a little bit more of, okay, this is what this offense can look like. You can run the ball well, find your weapons over the middle or even on the outside with guys like George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth over the middle, get things going. And then again, deep balls to Calvin Austin. Like all of these plays, I think are just parts of the, the Steelers talk about, stacking bricks and things like that. They're going to keep stacking these solid plays, keep building what they know that their potential is. And I think we're going to see a lot of really good things to come, knowing that there still are going to be some growing pains.
Absolutely. We'll get to more of those growing pains when we talk more about this matchup in a bit. Well, we have to get to our NFL picks in the next section for all the Week 4 games. We'll talk about those in a minute here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Chris Carter and Jenna Harner from Channel 11 WPXI. But first, before we go anywhere else, I want to remind you guys this show is sponsored by DoorDash. If you're missing syrup for your pancakes or just ran out of your favorite coffee creamer, DoorDash groceries delivery is available, and you can get what you want delivered right to your door whenever you need it. You've trusted DoorDash to deliver your restaurant favorites, and now you can get grocery delivery that actually delivers too. Want even more value? You can save on all your groceries and restaurant favorites with a $0 delivery fee on all eligible orders with a Dash Pass membership. Get 50% off your first DoorDash order up to a $20 value when you use code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. That's 50% off up to $20, no minimum subtotal, and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code LOCKEDONNFL. Don't forget, that's code LOCKEDONNFL for 50% off your first order with DoorDash. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time, where buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They give you killer deals on last-minute tickets, and they have a best price guarantee that can't be beat, so you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you're about to have. The Game Time app allows you to book tickets even up to the last minute, even an hour after your event has started. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football games, basketball games, baseball games, concerts, comedy, theater, anything you can think of that needs tickets, Game Time most likely gets you into. And the Game Time guarantee makes sure that you'll always get the best prices. If you find tickets in the same section row for less somewhere else, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase, or go to their website, gametime.co. Terms and conditions apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Back here on the Locked On Steelers podcast, I'm your host, Chris Carter, here with Jenna Harner, Channel 11 WPXI. Jenna, let's get to our picks now. A few things here that we must point out. One, Jenna is now in the lead for me. I don't know how this happened. I was up by like 3 wins last week. Now I'm down by 2. She's 30-18, I believe, if I'm looking this right.
Yep, 30-18. It was a great week. Great week. Yeah,
you picked up a lot of ground. I dropped to 28-20. I don't know how this happened, but I have to say, there are now a lot of different accounts here that are calling both of us out. There was the one who's, you know what? I'm going to call this guy out. This guy, week 1, he was better than Chris Carter. Week 2, he was worse than Chris Carter, because now he's better than Chris Carter again. And I see who you are, Johnny Marax, or however you say your last name. Johnny, I know who you are now. I will find you and I will hunt you down. But in all other seriousness, but now Jenna has some hater accounts. We have a fade Jenna Harner account, and then we have a better than Jenna Harner, but neither of them are ahead of Jenna Harner right now. Jenna, what do you have to say to your haters?
If you want to trash talk, at least be better. At least do better. I mean, come on. If you're telling me to fade Jenna Harner, except I'm doing better than you, I don't think that's how it goes. It's a long season, but also talk trash if you're ahead.
Ooh, there's some heat from Jenna Harner. Let's get into the heat this week, and that's with some of the picks. Let's start with our London game. Falcons at Jaguars, 9:30 in the morning Eastern time. Woo! Falcons at Jaguars. The Jaguars, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, are the number 1 sportsbook in America, who gives us all our odds and ends every single week. They give us the odds that the Falcons are the road dogs here, even though they're both on the road in London. But the Jaguars are given 3 points here. This looks like a toss-up to me. Listen, Jenna, the Jaguars stunk last week against the Texans. The Falcons, they look like they have a good defense and a run game. The Jaguars look like they have the better quarterback. I'm going to go with the Jaguars for now, but man, this is certainly a toss-up for me.
There's a lot of these toss-up games this week. I don't feel really confident in a whole lot of them. This one, I kind of go back and forth a little bit. I'm going with the Jags just because I think they're a more complete team. I like their offense better than what Atlanta is starting to put together. Bijan Robinson is super fun, though, so I'm really excited to see how he and this. I'm excited to kind of catch a little bit of this game because we don't really get to catch a lot of games when they're matched up with the 1:00 slates with the Steelers. But I like the Jags in this one. Also, this is going to be that Toy Story Fun Day football. I'm watching that broadcast.
Oh my gosh!
Wait.
Oh my gosh! On the road, you'll be in Houston. Wait, will you be in Houston for that one?
No, I will be in Pittsburgh for this one, so I will not get to watch it. I'll get to watch it from the comfort of my own home, and I'm stoked.
There you go. That's nice. You need some of those days. Dolphins at Bills. Bills 3-point favorites. The Dolphins just beat up on somebody by 70 points with 70 points scored against the Broncos, but the Bills just beat up on the Commanders. Both of them seem to be finding their stride. I'm taking the Dolphins on the road here, Jenna, but are you doing the same?
I am. This game was one of those other toss-ups because I go back and forth because I think these are both incredible teams right now, elite offenses. I just think the one thing that's making me lean a little more towards the Dolphins here is that this game has the feeling of getting into a little bit of going to be a shootout. And I think when you put Josh Allen in that situation, there's going to be a little too much temptation for him to throw those hero balls, to do a little bit more than he feels he has to, even with the way that offense has performed the last couple of weeks. And I'm just afraid of the Bills making one too many mistakes. Don't hate me, Bills fans. I love the Bills. This is going to be such a fun game, but I just think the Dolphins right now are firing on all cylinders more than Buffalo is, but this is going to be a heck of a game.
Rams at Colts. Colts 1.5-point favorites at home. I think they might be riding a little bit from that upset over the Ravens. I'm going with the Rams here, but I'm intrigued to see what happens with the Colts.
I'm going with the Colts on this one. This was one of the, I feel like I keep being like, these are all toss-ups because this one really did feel like that to me. Look, I like what the Rams did a lot offensively. I feel surprised saying that over the last couple of weeks, but I think that defeat on Monday night against the Bengals just exposed some of their weaknesses a little bit. I'm not entirely sure what the up-to-the-date information on Anthony Richardson is going to be, but I think the Colts just kind of have been surprising a lot of people this season, and I think it's going to continue.
Anthony Richardson is back this week in practice after his concussion, so that's a good sign for them.
Great.
Vikings at Panthers. Vikings are 4-point favorites on the road. Listen, the Vikings are in a rough spot, 0-3 and looking pretty badly in doing so. I think this, like last week, I said, you want your fantasy points? Look at this game. Both defenses give up a lot of points. I got to pick the Vikings. They got to win at least one, Jenna. Or is it the Panthers who get the dub this week?
No, I think it's the Vikings. I mean, we know their record last year in one-score games. This year, it feels a lot like the opposite.
It's 0-3. They lost them all. It's ridiculous.
All of them. I wasn't sure. Have all of them been one-score games? I think they all have.
I believe so. I can look that up real quick, though.
Yeah, triple check me on that. I never want to come out hot with a stat and then be like, I was so wrong on that. But they fared so well a season ago. And look, this is a very, very, very offensively talented team with Kirk Cousins, obviously Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, those weapons they have on offense. I think they're a better team here, but you got to go out there and beat the Panthers. You cannot fall to 0-4.
All three games by one score, 70-20 to the Buccaneers, 28-34 to the Eagles, 24-28 to the Chargers. A little bit of karma coming back their way, but I agree that this has to be the week that it turns around for them. Buccaneers at Saints. Buccaneers looked really impressive for the first 2 weeks, then kind of got smoked last week by the Eagles. The Saints are at home, 3-point favorites. I'm going to take the Saints here. I know they're dealing with some injuries, but Alvin Kamara is back, and I count that for something, and that defense is still tough.
Yeah, that defense is still tough, but I also really like what the Bucs have done on offense. I think also you're going to look that way when you're playing the Eagles defense, and you're going to look that way when the Eagles are maintaining drives and sustaining drives the way they were Monday night. I like the Bucs in this one. I like what Baker Mayfield's been doing. This one kind of feels a little coin flippy here, but yeah, I like the Bucs, and I think that they bounce back after the loss on Monday night.
Eagles home favorites by 8.5 points on FanDuel over the Commanders. The Commanders had a rough one last week. I think the Eagles, they keep rolling.
Yeah, Eagles keep on rolling because what's so scary about this team is that offense has not had a complete game yet. And when they do,
it's going to be scary.
Boy. So yeah, that defense looks great. The brotherly shove, as it's now being called, rebrand on the push. So they're the kings of that. I think they'll keep doing that. And also, man, they're putting it together. And I think that they'll be able to do that this week.
Now, the game that no one wants to pick because no one believes in either team. It's the Broncos at the Bears. Both have been abysmally terrible. The Broncos got 70 burgered by the Dolphins last week. The Bears have just looked completely inept. Justin Fields has come out and said how he's being coached to play robotically. It's been terrible, but somehow the Broncos are 3.5-point favorites on the road. I'm going to take the Broncos just because I think that they'll be able to rebound a little bit better from their butt kicking last week. But the Bears, they just look completely inept right now.
Yeah, I think if you circled a game that no one wanted to watch, potentially even the fans of both of those teams, they would agree. I'm going with Denver. Chicago just seems in disarray, and it is not great.
It is not great right now. Let's move on here to the Ravens at the Browns. Huge game for Steelers fans. While you're watching the Steelers-Texans game, you're going to be keeping up with the AFC North rivalry here. The Browns are 2.5-point favorites at home after the Ravens dropped a disappointing loss to the Colts. Man, I'm picking the Browns in this one. Their defense has been tough. They've been getting after it, even with Nick Chubb being out. The Ravens are going to be a tough team, but the way that the Browns have played, the Steelers are the only team to beat them. Every other team, the Titans and the Bengals that they've played, they've beaten handily. I don't know if they'll beat the Ravens handily, but I do think that they'll pull out a win here at home. What say you, Jenna?
Yeah, this all comes down to defense for me, and that Browns defense is legit. They are for real. Not only is that pass rush absolutely deadly, but the corners. Those guys are so locked down in the secondary. I think we're going to continue to see a lot more good things from them. It's going to be a close one, but I'm going Browns.
Absolutely. Bengals at Titans. Bengals 2.5-point favorites. They still didn't look good last week, but they pulled out a win, and that's the bottom line. You want to get those wins. The Titans have looked really rough on offense. Ryan Tannehill looks completely lost. I'm going with the Bengals. They'll find a way.
Yeah, I'm going with Cincy too. Look, we saw them game plan as well as they did to have Joe Burrow in there, but he was not 100%, but he found all those little dink and dunk passes, and it worked really efficiently for them. I think that defense also has taken a step forward, so I'm going with the Bengals in this one. The Titans that offense has been brutal.
5.5-point favorites. The Chargers are at home against the Raiders. We move into the 4:00 games here. I'm gonna take the Chargers because I liked what they showed offensively. They're still not a well-coached team. They're all over the place. But the Raiders, you saw how rough they were against the Steelers. I think the Chargers roll it home.
Yeah, I think just looking at the Chargers offense and Justin Herbert, I think that they just have so many weapons. And yes, I know losing Mike Williams hurts incredibly, but I think that you have a really solid quarterback, and the Raiders there's so many question marks about that team right now. We saw what the Steelers did to them. I think this is an easy win for LA.
The Cowboys are 6.5-point favorites against the Patriots in Dallas. I'm riding with the Cowboys, even though they were embarrassing in last week and their loss to the Arizona Cardinals. They have to bounce back this week. The Patriots, though, they've been known to sneak teams if they're not paying attention.
Yeah, and this is one of the ones that I probably would have said would be a little bit closer if Dallas didn't get embarrassed the way that they did last week. And the Patriots didn't come off just riding the high of an emotional win over your AFC East rival. I think that the Cowboys kind of bounced back here. This is one of the best defenses in the league, or at least it's supposed to be. And I know the loss of Trayvon Diggs really hurts, but I think Dallas comes back, bounces back here, gets back to the way that we saw them play earlier in the season. Although I will be intrigued to see what Bill Belichick can scheme up against Dak Prescott and how he looks.
Largest spread of the week, the Niners, 14-point favorites, 2 whole touchdowns over the Arizona Cardinals. Cardinals pulled off the upset last week, and then Josh Dobbs went to the Cardinals the store, and they didn't have any Josh Dobbs jerseys. They made sure to get Josh Dobbs jerseys for him, and I think it's a good thing because now they're about to play the Niners, and the Niners defense ain't going to be playing around the way the Cowboys defense was. I'll say, hey, the Cardinals might cover because they've played tough in all their games, but the Niners are going to control this game.
That was exactly my thoughts on this. I think that this is a massive spread, even regardless of the fact that the Niners look like the best, most complete team in the league right now. I just think 14's a lot, but I just also, again, they're the best. The Niners, in my opinion, the best team in the league right now. I think they continue to roll.
Absolutely. Chiefs at Jets. Chiefs on the road and are 9.5-point favorites. A lot of trash talk coming on before this game. Stuff said about Zach Wilson, stuff being fired back. Lots of stuff going on. The Jets are in disarray at the quarterback position. Their defense might keep them in it, but the Chiefs are going to win this one.
Yeah, Chiefs win. The defense is kind of the only bright spot of the Jets right now. So much. I feel your heart kind of feels bad for Zach Wilson a little bit, especially with what Joe Namath was saying about him the other day. Also, Taylor Swift will be there. In case anybody hasn't heard that storyline, talked about it all. Taylor Swift is supposed to be in attendance for this matchup. So going Chiefs.
The Taylor Swift, when she's there, the Chiefs are undefeated. So
That's-
I'm just going to keep picking until she proves otherwise.
Yep.
Monday Night Football, Giants hosting the Seahawks. Giants are 1.5-point favorites. Jenna, do you feel good about the Giants being favored?
No,
That's crazy. I'm taking the Seahawks. That's a trap.
Yeah, I'm going with Seattle in this one. And again, this is coming from your Giants fan here. I like the fact that there's the potential for this team to get Saquon back, but I just don't see them. It's been tough. So I'm going with the Seahawks in this one. I just like what they've put out better. The Giants still Daniel Jones has not been playing spectacular. They kept pace with the Niners in the first half, and then things just kind of fell off the wagon. So, yeah, the Giants are not going to win this game.
Absolutely. We'll get to Steelers Texans in a minute here with our final predictions and our turning points, how we see this week playing out for your Pittsburgh Steelers against the Houston Texans on the road here on the Locked On Steelers podcast. But first, before we go anywhere else, we got to remind you that this show is also brought to you by eBay Motors. And of course, eBay Motors, they're the service that you go to when you need to find parts for your car. And our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. Whether you're preparing for a draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed fits on your roster and guaranteed things to play. So with that being said, last week with the fantasy pick, we had Pat Freiermuth. This week, it's again going to be Pat Freiermuth against the Texas defense that's already given up over 100 yards to tight ends and a touchdown. They're allowing a high completion rate. Pat Freiermuth got touchdowns last week. He's picking up steam. Go make sure that Pat Freiermuth is your guaranteed fit for your fantasy football roster this week. Then with eBay's guaranteed fit, you get over 122 million parts and accessories for your vehicle right at your fingertips, and you make sure that your ride stays running smoothly. Air filters, brakes, batteries, taillights, alternators, shock struts, you name it, eBay Motors has it, and then make sure it's the right fit for your car because eBay's guaranteed fit helps you understand exactly what parts you need for your vehicle the first time. So go forth, switch gears, crank the AC, and say goodbye to sweating if your ride needs a little fixing up, because now you know you'll always be set up for success from the get-go. With eBay's guaranteed fit, everything your vehicle is calling for is just a click away. For the parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check. Get the right parts, the right fit, the right prices at ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay's guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Back here in the Locked On Steelers podcast, Chris Carter here with Jenna Harner from Channel 11 WPXI in Pittsburgh. Jenna, it's time to talk Steelers versus Texans. Now, the Texans are a team, 1-2, coming off their win over the Jaguars. Everyone is feeling C.J. Stroud right now. He's had a hot start to it, and he's looked good. But the key that we brought up on our crossover Thursday is that he is now going to be missing not just his starting left tackle, but also his backup left tackle, and the starting right tackle. And that means TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith have a real chance to eat and get inside there. Also, Kendrick Green starting on the inside for the Texans. We saw how he struggled with the Steelers. There's been some who might say that at least for the last two games, Kendrick Green has been the best Texans offensive lineman. If that's the case, this Steelers defensive front needs to take this game over.
I completely agree. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. I mean, TJ Watt, my goodness, he has been on just a tear of a pace through the first 3 games, 6 sacks. There's so many, he's the first player to da-da-da-da-da and the stats that I can't even.
It keeps coming. There's just new ones every week.
Every week. It's like, TJ Watt's the first player to do this, first player to do this, first player to do this. I think that this defense, Steelers defense, is going to have themselves a field day, and also to create pressure. CJ Stroud has not yet thrown an interception. I also think that changes because, again, we saw how Watt got after Jimmy Garoppolo this week and the decisions that Garoppolo made against the Steelers defense that led to, was it 2? It was 2 picks or 3?
3
It was
interceptions.
3. Yeah, it was 3. It was Levi. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know why my brain was like 2. No, it's 3. I don't know. I'm still getting back from what day or time it was. But I think the defense has themselves a day, and the offense feeds off that.
And listen, Steelers right now lead the NFL with 13 sacks. They are key at getting to the quarterback. Last week, the big thing going in was no one had sacked Jimmy Garoppolo. No one had sacked him. You just can't get to him. He's too quick with the ball out. They changed that. And now with C.J. Stroud, if you can get pressure, you can force some of those picks. And something that we talked about on this very show just yesterday on Crossover Thursday. Yes, C.J. Stroud has looked good against the blitz. He's been efficient in reading where it's coming from. But the Steelers, I don't think they need to necessarily blitz in this game. Yes, he's thrown 2 touchdowns when teams have blitzed him. But when he's actually been under pressure, when it's actually gotten there, which the Steelers will try to use with their 4-man rushes, his yards per attempt dropped all the way from 8.9, almost 9 yards per attempt, to 4.3. He's completed just 55% of those passes compared to 68. And that is where I think the key will be for the Steelers. Make him uncomfortable. He's a rookie. The Steelers have won 9 straight games against starting rookie quarterbacks. Yeah. That's got to be the biggest key for this game. Jenna, give us your big turning point for this game and your final score prediction.
I think my biggest turning point is when C.J. Stroud potentially throws that first interception, because that's going to be a big moment for him. How does he respond? What happens on the ensuing drive, depending on what the Steelers do? But I think you're going to see that. And then if he throws that interception or fumbles because of the pass rush, whatever it is, whatever turnover it's going to be, the Steelers offense is going to capitalize off of that. That was something we talked about with so many of the guys in the locker room after the win over the Raiders and kind of throughout the week, was that ability to continue to find that complementary style game. And I think both sides of the ball are taking steps forward. This is what you want to see, especially early in the season. So I think it's going to be the Steelers offense capitalizing off of some sort of C.J. Stroud turnover, or frankly, they might not even have to, because we might see what happened week 2 against the Browns, where Alex Highsmith or TJ Watt scoring a touchdown. So something in that realm. I think the Steelers win this game. I think it's kind of like a 27-20 type of game. I think the Steelers offense puts up 2 touchdowns. The defense creates something in some way, a couple field goals. I don't think it's going to be as close as it's going to feel, as the final score will kind of show. But yeah, I think the Steelers win this one and move to 3-1.
I'm right with you on the win department. I do think the Steelers get the win in this game, especially because of the Texans' state of their offensive line. They haven't had a good run game, and now they're going to have to. That's probably going to put them behind the sticks if their offensive line isn't fully there. The Steelers' defense has to show up, stuff the run, get after the quarterback, make those plays. And I think the turning point, like you said, it comes when those turnovers start to come, because then when those start to come, if the Steelers offense can just capitalize, not saying they have to put up a ton of points, but just put up some points, get a double-digit lead, go up by 10 at one point, and then if the defense keeps putting pressure on him, eventually C.J. Stroud's going to start feeling that pressure, not just from the pressure of T.J. Watt and Alex Highsmith, but the pressure of the game to make riskier throws. That's going to allow this secondary more chances to make plays, and that's where I see the Steelers defense taking over and continuing to push here. I'm saying a little bit further away of a score. 27-13 is my final score. Both of us have the Steelers scoring 27. Defensive points might be involved there, at least, especially in getting short fields, but maybe even again on their own scoring. But I think the offense takes a step forward. The defense takes advantage of the Texans' offensive line problems, and this, it's not a comfortable win, but it's a win. It's probably your most complete win you'll see from the Steelers this weekend. But that, again, that's why they have to deliver. And if they do, they'll be 3-1 heading into their game against the Baltimore Ravens in Week 5, which is a very good place to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that game also, I'm not looking too far ahead, but there's been so much talk about these 2 games leading into the bye week, because it feels a little bit earlier than it usually is this year. These are 2 winnable games. But again, you can't look ahead to the Ravens. The Steelers know the task at hand, and I think they're very locked in all week. They are looking to maintain the consistency that we start to see them kind of lay out here. And I think that they get that done, no doubt, this week.
Absolutely. She's Jenna Harner from Channel 11 WPXI. Jenna, what should people be on the lookout from your upcoming work?
Well, definitely tune in if you are in Pittsburgh, or if you have the WPXI streaming app, this Friday for Skylights with Chris Carter and I. We host that together, but I have a really awesome feature story about one local assistant coach here in Pittsburgh. She is absolutely phenomenal, and she does so much more than just being a running backs coach for one of the local high schools here. So definitely stay tuned for that. And we got a lot of just awesome stuff. Steelers coverage, of course, following the game on Sunday. I will be in studio all night, bringing you highlights, locker room sound, all the post-game stuff that you guys are looking for. So definitely stay tuned.
Absolutely. Stay tuned. She's Jenna Harner from Channel 11 WPXI. Jenna, thanks again for always being here. I'm your host, Chris Carter. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Read my work at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Find me at post-gazette.com there, and find me on Twitter and Instagram at Carter Critiques. Check me out here on the Locked On Steelers podcast Monday through Friday on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube. Thanks again, everybody. I'll see you all again after the Sunday game, 1 p.m. We'll see you Sunday night here on the Locked On Steelers podcast.